Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, March 28th SIG Release meeting. My name is Jeremy, and I'll be the host today. I have dropped the agenda into the chat. Please add yourself as an attendee, and if you have any topics you'd like to discuss, please make sure you add those as well. Before we get going, this meeting is covered by the CNCF Code of Conduct, so please be mindful of things you say. We also will be recording, and this will be available on YouTube, so if you don't want to be on camera or anything, here's a warning that we're recording and getting ready to go. With that said, let's kick it off. Is anybody here new would like to introduce themselves? I think I see mostly familiar faces, but if anybody wants to say hello, feel free to come off mute and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashwin Kumar Uppala, and yeah, I'm pretty new here. I'm just checking out how everything works. So yeah, happy to just follow along and listen from the conversation.
Welcome, we're happy to have you. Are there any particular parts of SIG Release that you're interested in? Or just kind of learning things in general?
I do try to understand SIG docs. That is the least overwhelming part, but it still overwhelms me. So I'm just trying to stay consistent with meetings and absorb from the limited time that I get off work.
Great. Happy to have you here. Anyone else that would like to say hello? Are you good, Josh? Do you have the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well, a couple of us, since Ashwin is new, a couple of us should introduce ourselves. So
yeah, go for it.
Know some people. So by the way, I'm Josh Burkus, SIG Contrib-X co-chair, rarely make it to these meetings, even though I mean to make it to them more often, but meeting schedules are hard.
Very hard.
Yes.
All right.
Someone else?
I'll go next.
Adolfo, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Adolfo or Puerco, and I am one of the technical leads here, and I deal with mostly release engineering. Jeremy?
Yeah. Hey, I'm Jeremy. I'm one of the chairs for the SIG. Do some release engineering stuff, release team stuff. Just gotta make sure people are connecting the dots and things. Marco, how about you next?
Hey folks, I am Mark Modrinic, and I am a SIG Release contributor for a long time. I am currently serving as a release manager, and that's what's it about me. So, anyone else wants to say hi?
Oh, hi. Sorry, this is Cici. I'm the currently 127 release manager, and I've been in release team for a couple release cycles. I'm currently focusing on helping with the release team related stuff. Yeah, thank you.
I'll go next. Hi, I'm Mohammed. I'm one of the contributors to SIG Release and SIG Kitchen for our activities. I've been around for a while.
All right. How about Joseph? You want to go next?
Sure. I'm Joseph Sandoval. I'm a release manager associate. I think I'm mainly known for just hanging out with SIG Release people and learning from them out in the open. And hopefully one day I'll move on up and be a full-on release manager if life allows me.
Grace and Jim, do you want to introduce yourselves? We were just doing a round of intros since we had a new person and didn't have a huge crowd. Thought it would be good to introduce ourselves just so people had context.
Yeah, happy to go first. I'm Grace, mostly work on the release team, enhancement team, CS Signal, most recently branch manager associate.
Yep, and I'm Jim Angel. Nice to meet you all and welcome. A release manager associate, and been kind of lingering around SIG Release for quite some time now.
All right, Laura, you're the last one. You wanna
I
say hi?
know, yeah. Hi, my name's Laura. I am on the 127 release team as CI Signal lead and have shadowed a couple other times and have only been to SIG Release a few times related to some CI Signal stuff.
All right. Thanks, everybody. That was good. I don't think we've done a round of intros in a while. Thanks for prompting that, Josh. All right, let's jump into our reoccurring topics. Sub-project updates first, release engineering. Marco or CC, do you want to give us an update there?
Can try. So in general, speaking of release engineering, it has been mostly fine. We are started slowly preparing for the upcoming April patch releases. There are some incoming cherry picks. I have been trying to take care of them. I also plan to probably later this week go through all of them that we have so far, take a look and try to review them. As a reminder, cherry pick deadline is April, I think, 7th, and then we will do releases on April 12th. Also, something that is probably worth mentioning is that we run into some issues with signatures, and this is something that you could probably see on release engineering channel that we have, release management, sorry. And it is about that for some reason, signatures tend to be different between the artifact registry mirrors that we have. Adolfo is working on this along with Ben. However, we are trying not to do any changes, including the change to fix the missing signatures that we had for the last two patch release series. This is because the migration from K-Test GCR IO to Registry K-Test IO is in progress. We are doing, actually the Google folks are doing the rollout to 100% of IP addresses, and we decided to not do any changes that could risk that could make them hit the error budget and then eventually revert. So we are aware that there are some issues with signatures, but right now we don't really want to fix anything because we don't know if this is going to break the migration and eventually we run into much bigger problems. Rodolfo, do you maybe want to provide some updates regarding that in depth or?
Yeah, I mean, the initial investigation on the diverging signatures that Ben found most likely are due to the promoter being interrupted because of rate limiting in the middle of the signature process. While we will not run the signature fixes just now, I was talking with Carlos yesterday, and what we want to start doing is creating jobs to do dry runs on that to see, just to ensure that we have the proper credentials, that it's detecting the proper problems, and just in preparation for when we can actually run the fix. And I linked in the agenda the issue where we're tracking everything. I need to do some cleanup of some issues that have been popping up regarding the same problem in different repos, so that we can track everything in our own in the issue I opened in SIG Release initially last month.
Okay, so maybe it would be better to recap the plan, but I guess the plan for now would be to wait for Google folks to give us a green light, then fix the signatures that we can, and then we probably can look into promoter. I started looking into the promoter stuff, like if there is some bug or if there's something we can improve, but I will probably continue doing that tomorrow. So I will keep you updated and we can keep in sight regarding that.
Yeah, exactly. The jobs that we are gonna start running are just dry run jobs that don't change anything. It's only to get information so that we can see if it's finding the right problems and the credentials are set up right.
All right, thanks for the update on that. I think we had a couple more things under release engineering, one from CC and one from Mohammed. Mohammed, do you want to go first about image freezing?
Yeah, I'll do that. So this week we were planning on freezing the old registry, right? So this was scheduled like quite some time ago before we started talking about redirecting anything. So there is a little snag that we went into. So it's related to the inconsistencies with the signatures, right? So Ben suggested that we delay the image freezing for a while. Don't know how long, but that depends on when we can start making changes to the registries, which is currently frozen. So changes are currently on hold until the redirect is complete, because we don't want Google rolling back anything. We broke something or otherwise. So we'll see where we are. The other thing is the freeze now has less value, given that we've got agreement on the redirection, but it will still be implemented regardless, particularly for clients within Google Card who won't be redirected just yet. But yeah, that's where we're at this week. The PR is ready, so whenever Ben says we can go ahead and we'll get it merged in. Yeah, that's the main update from me. But other than that, the work is complete, really.
Great. Thank you for that update. And then CC, do you want to give us an update on the RC Zerocut last week?
Yeah, sure. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm still kind of lost partially my voice. Yeah, we did the RC Zerocut yesterday, last week, sorry, and we did the branch creation. Mostly going smoothly, and like we as expected, we hit the rate limiting issue again, so the signature might be still broken there, and hopefully we're gonna fix it together with other releases. And the other like issue I want to mention during the RC Zerocut is that an PR was merged during the RC card, which is unexpected. I guess like we just didn't watch the tagging like properly, so there's a PR which got tagged in the middle and merged without like properly testing. I've looked at the PR, it's mainly just API documentation updates, so nothing super worried about, but I guess it reflects the process kind of process-wise the bug or whatever like we were missing. So I would suggest that maybe later we should have something like a separate label to prevent the PR to be merged, like say only the PR who were tagged not only for like the current milestone, but also a release blocker kind of stuff. Because otherwise, like all the SIG have like the access to tag the milestone label and get PR merged anytime. So yeah, that's something I expected. And also the tagging issue, I think I'm not sure, like someone mentioned earlier, that like we have the auth0 tagging issue, which caused the CI failure, and it was fixed now. And also some updates on the post branch creation tasks. We got most of the work completed, except for one I have linked there for pending for review one, which is try to create the branch jobs for the 127. I'm sorry. Thank you, Rodolfo, for raising this PR. And this morning I have checked this PR and I have left it a comment as the latest comment, which seems like there is issue coming up. And I expected 1.28 job was created by the comment of prepare release branch. I'm not sure what's happening. I created an issue for investigating further, but in the meantime, I also suggested to do some manually like a fix to be able to get the 127 job running, and so CI team can like watch it properly. Like please, if you have time, take a look at my suggestion this morning and to see if that makes sense. Yeah, I guess that's mainly the progress so far. Thank you.
Thank you, CC. And I'll echo what Rodolfo says.
Another
please.
thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Another thing for the another thing for the branch like board creation for 1.27. I know like we previously have the stable 4. Thanks Marco for working on this because of like one of the previous release, if I remember correctly, is 122, which kind of end of life is I expected longer than the previous ones. So that's why we have like a stable 4 mark in place now. But now things like 122 and 123 is all kind of past the end of life mark. I previously suggested like we should remove the job for like those two releases which are already out of their life. So let me know if people have any objections or something. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And I hope you feel better. And definitely don't push yourself to do any of this if you're sick. We can definitely share the load.
Thank you so much. I expected like longer. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for release engineering before we move on to release team updates? All right. Anybody from the release team want to give us updates? I don't know if we have anybody that wants to authoritatively speak for the release team, but feel free to give us an update. Otherwise, we can jump into the topic from Laura and Josh.
Hi. Yeah. I wanted to follow up about the CI signal report. So on a couple meetings ago here, prompted from also talking about it at the retro for 127, I was asking about the CI signal report, which is like the weekly email blast, and in like the release CI signal Slack channel too, that there's like a template for, there's some duplication of information there, and then some extra information that I've seen vary over different releases I've at least observed with the work that we do with our project board and the GitHub issues, and then with the regular updates to the release team on like the Wednesday weeklies, the Friday Apex, and then the Monday burn downs. So wanted to find a way to kind of streamline this, but I was sort of coming from the direction of, is this email blast, you know, still relevant? And at the time at this meeting, we didn't have a ton of context around like its historical role, besides that like we did it a lot, and that I should get some feedback from the community. I do have an issue which includes a survey draft, which is possibly interesting to get feedback from this group in general about, but in the process also heard from a couple people on that issue, and also from Josh, who has some backstory experience with the report. So I'd love to give Josh a chance to talk a little bit about that and have a little bit more context too.
Yeah, so because Laura came to me because I'm the person in Contribex that does surveys. But by coincidence, I happen to also be the one who created the original CI signal report for 111. And my immediate response to Laura is, why do we need to do a survey? If the CI signal team feels like the effort to result ratio is not worthwhile, they can just not do it. I mean, first, one of the advantages of having 3 release cycles a year is that you could be experimental about things. You can say, hey, for a release cycle, we're not going to do the CI signal report and see if it's a problem. The second reason is that the CI signal report was created at a different time. So a lot of things have sort of objectively changed that lower its value. It was created at a time when our tools for looking at why things were failing in test grid were not as good. Things failed a lot more often. If you look at the CI signal reports for like 113, you will see that we spent most of the release cycle in the red. And so the original purpose of the CI signal report was as a call to action in order to get people to actually respond to failing tests. And that's just not the problem that it was multiple releases ago, right? Our test grid is in much better shape than it was. And because there are fewer failures, people are faster to respond to the failures that do exist. Plus, frankly, the current template that's being used doesn't really have that call to action component. It's kind of a data summary, but it doesn't say, like, if you look at the early reports from like 111, 112 and stuff, the primary part of the report was, we have this thing failing, we're going to block release. Here are the people who are, or SIGs who are owners on that. Please do something about it now. And that's not part of the template now. And it's actually, I would argue, not really needed now either. So I mean, my historical perspective on this is we don't really need to do a survey or anything. The CI Signal team, Laura and whoever Laura's handing it over to for 128 can just do it, can just cancel it. Probably, if there's any data there that's unique, consider rolling it into the periodic release lead report.
Yeah, so anyways, food for thought and kind of want to see how the rest of SIG Release feels about that, or also I don't disagree that even if the weekly report doesn't have it doesn't return something to the health of the release, it doesn't help CI Signal do its job of making sure that people are responding to responding to tests that they need to fix, because we surgically go after people now, I guess. And also a lot of people are listening too, who have responsibility towards that. I do think that it's something that at least some people are used to. And I do think there's also newer tools. They feel like they're the ones that I knew from the time that I've shadowed and then participated, but the CI Signal board, and then of course the release notes where that information can exist if you wanted to have more of a passive effect. So I don't know if if the perspective of the SIG is still to do a full-on survey, if there's something in between that's about here's the communication about how we're going to not do this for a while, and here's where this information also is and has been for some time, and try out finding this information there if that's something that you want to keep an eye on, or whatever, just stop doing it and go dark or something. So I feel like all of those, or some variation of those, is somewhere in between of those, are all seem like paths that could go forward. But yeah, I want to hear from the rest of SIG Release. Just make sure that we're doing this on a timeline and with a representative, I guess, of what people may or may not expect and how much we want to communicate around that.
I mean, I like the approach of drain the pool, see what comes out. So just letting people know in advance, we're maybe not gonna do this in 128. And I mean, still open to if someone has a really good reason of why we should keep doing it, then we can, unless someone has expressed I really need this for my daily job or whatever, then maybe. But it seems it doesn't get that much response. So if it makes people's lives easier, I say go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that the only anecdotes I guess I really have is everybody here, myself as a shadow, the release leads of 127, and talking to release and some people who've been a part of it here, and release branch management for 127, which says that they don't use it because we have a more direct communication method, and they also have access to similar tooling. And then there were a couple of people who did comment on the survey issue request that was like, yo, I love this thing. But it wasn't like really specific of like, I must have this thing, or I can't do my job if I don't do this thing. And like, I happen to know some of those people also get the communication in the release CI signal Slack, because like we see them there too. So there's obviously some overlap there. So like, that's the whole breadth of what I know in terms of answering the question of who wants to use this and who likes it. And, you know, there's a little bit of that, but I still feel pretty confident of what I have seen. Of course, it's not like a whole objective survey with the sample size 1 billion or whatever, but that we could drop this, or we could drop this experimentally and communicates a little extra about here's the other places that this information already lives as part of the process of CI signal. And we would get the same quality of response on like release blocking issues from the perspective of CI signal, and CI signal could do the same like level of quality to ensure the health of the release without it.
Yeah, from my perspective, the branch managers for each release, I think, have enough with the update that the CI signal team does before we got the releases. It's more of maybe a particular feature, and I think this is, if I understood you, Josh, correctly, it's people may find a bit of information which we may be able to relocate in a more automated fashion somewhere else. But I guess the only way to know is moving people to really comment on their needs by maybe taking it out for one cycle.
Yeah, that seems like a doable approach. Potentially drop it for 128, see if it causes problems, and bring it back if it does. Keep it gone if it doesn't.
Okay, well, I will also just bring this back to 127 at our next retro, so that it gets communicated some more there too. Talk to all the CI signal people and obviously the successor, and then update the handbook some so that it's the situation is there. And great. Thanks everybody for your help streamlining CI signal.
Thank you for streamlining CI signal. I think you're doing the hard work, chasing everybody down. All right. I added 2 things in open discussion, but if anybody has anything else they want to get to before those, mine should be pretty, well, one might take a little longer to discuss, but if anybody has any other topics they'd like to bring up, feel free to add them into the agenda. I don't see any new ones. So we'll jump into mine real quick. The first one is we've opened a PR with the 2022 annual report for the SIG. That lists things like what things we accomplished, what our priorities were, things we wanted to have recognition for, stats about contributors, stats about people participating in the SIG, general information like that. So please review that PR. If there's anything that you think that we have glossed over or should focus more on, feel free to comment, and we'll incorporate that into the annual report. Any other feedback on that, super welcome as well. And then my second topic is related to what Cece mentioned about that PR merging during the branch cut, the RC0 release. We also had not the same problem, but a similar problem for 126, where the branch fast forwarder kicked in. And then that really caused issues. So we fixed that problem by disabling the branch fast forwarder. So that's going to not be a problem anymore. But we have seen things like this in the past. And like Cece mentioned, like pretty much anybody that's in Milestone maintainers at that point can milestone something, and then PRA will merge it once it has LGTM and approved, which can be unintentional. Like people may not know, like, because it's such a large group, people may not know. So I was just wondering, what if we disabled that or added some other protection before the release cut started, maybe just for RC0, and maybe the final, probably RC0 because we cut the branch at that point and we have more control over like things happening. But what if we did something like that to just enforce a little bit more policy automatically? I mean, automatically after we do a PR to turn some settings up, but adding in a little bit more restriction on merging things in like that critical kind of time period.
I have 2 comments on that.
Go for it.
Yeah, so doing that should be fairly easy because there is a Pro plugin that you can just create an issue, and it's basically going to merge, to block merging PRs as long as that issue is open. So technical part is very easy. What actually worries me if, for example, I don't know, the release cutting slides for a day or 2, I don't know, because we have some technical issues, we block merging to KK for potentially too long. Might not be a problem for RC0 stuff because RC0 we are in code freeze, but for example, if we want to adopt something like that for patch releases, which are also affected by the same issue, we had problems where we had to almost discard patch releases because something got merged while we were cutting them, or even to like do some very scary Git magic. So this is probably something that we should do, but we should be aware that it might be a problem because if patch releases take a lot of time, then yeah, that's not optimal. I believe sorry about that, just a moment. My Zoom broke. I will share something. I think that we are running into this issue all the time. This is something that we encountered before. We tried to fix that, but we never really properly fixed it. I'm not sure how to fix it, so that's the reason why it stays open for too long. There have been some attempts, and I think it is recapped into that issue. But we might want to get back to it and see, okay, if this is something that we can actually fix for all the time, or if this is something that we can fix and that we have to block merging to be on the safe side.
Can I ask a question if you don't mind? Why doesn't the project do squash and merge commits all over the place? I see that that's not the default tied method, and people don't like it. Like, could you elaborate a bit more about that?
That will be very opinionated discussion. Like, I think that there are folks who prefer merge because it keeps the history and you can very easily see what's merged. But there are folks who prefer squash because it is like streamlined history and then you're easy to navigate it. You don't really have such problems, like it simplifies a little bit. But yeah, I think it wouldn't be a change that's going to be accepted that easily. I would personally like to see it, but I can imagine that it might not be easy to get it up and running.
Okay, I mean, the reason I ask is squash and merge is very convenient, and I mean, I've been doing that forever, and many projects do that as well. But it's a little bit annoying when you run into a few many repositories that straight out reject PRs that have like merge commits and things like that.
Yeah, I personally like the clean history of commits. But
you reject some PRs automatically because of GitHub's bad behavior when we don't. Like if you mention someone's username, they get pinged. If you mention a repo issue and say fixes, it will close it. Every time anyone merges it into any fork of the repo, the blocking merge commits comes from that sort of thing. If there isn't any bad behavior left, then we can drop it. Because the intention there is to just avoid triggering obnoxious GitHub behavior that we've been told is considered features and won't be changed. As far as squash
people were
merging,
smart enough not to put the magic words in the commit messages.
it happens a lot.
Okay.
So the merge robot, so the robots are trying to prevent you from doing those things. We've also have a few variations on that where it's unfortunate, like Dependabot includes references to like npm packages that look like they could be GitHub team references, and it's hard to detect the difference. So we're maybe blocking more than we need to, but it exists for a reason. Same thing with squash merges. Like if you turned on squash merge and the main Kubernetes repo as the way that all PRs are merged, I know I and some other developers would be kind of sad. Sometimes we have a really complicated feature and breaking it up over a couple commits makes it much easier to understand what's happening. Particularly when you get into things like auto-generated code, and then you have a huge auto-generated diff, and I want to ignore that commit and focus on the like human-generated commit.
Okay.
But like, for example, Kubernetes website, I don't really see any reason that it couldn't be the default. And I believe you can already change that sort of thing in Prow. It's more of a discussion with whoever owns the repo. And it's also possible for a repo to permit having users opt into marking their PR as it should be squash merged. I think we generally have that available, but it's maybe not well known.
Did you also want to comment on the topic of blocking things?
I didn't quite catch that part of the conversation.
okay.
I've got a couple of fires in the background.
Oh yeah. I think Adolfo was going to maybe comment too. Suggestion was, can we had a PR merge during the RC Zerocut that somebody applied the milestone label to, and it just went in. What if we disabled merging when we were doing branch cuts or like patch releases to those specific branches?
We could. I feel like that the rules we want, I'm not sure if we definitely put it a different way. We only allow certain people to mark things for mergeability, and it sounds like maybe they don't understand what's reasonable, and that sounds like a root problem.
Yeah, milestone maintainers is not a small set of people. It's a lot of people, which I think is a problem. Probably too many people.
And we've also had this happen because of people who may not know it, but people who know very well how all of this works.
I think it would be reasonable. Oh, sorry.
Go.
I think it would be reasonable to say milestone maintainers need to all like act an issue where you're re-outlining this is the expected like use case for opting things in or something, because otherwise I think we're just shifting when this problem happens, and we're going to have things that are merged that shouldn't merge at a different phase.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I'm less concerned about the branches, right? It's more when we are doing the in master. So
I just wanted to comment on one thing, but I'm not sure if I'm missing any context, but I don't really think that we need milestone maintainers, because it might be useful to like mark the PR as in what release it is going, but overall milestone applier is going to do that for us. Like it's going to mark the PR once it is merged for main branch, and for release branches, I think as soon as it is created, or also on merge, I'm not sure exactly, but it is going to, we have something that is milestoning the PRs, and relatively milestoning should be mostly done by the SIG release, because the SIG release is possible for code freeze and stuff like that. So maybe we should reevaluate if we need that team at all. Like, what are we going to lose if we drop the team?
The intent is that if I'm like a lead in a SIG, I know if this is an important bug fix to my code base or whatever, and I should be able to mark that like this is the case. I think we should be able to trust our leaders, but we need to communicate about what's expected. Sounds like that didn't happen with RCs, or people haven't acknowledged it. And I think we could so like, for example, to be a chair now, we now have a procedure where you have to take our like the Linux Foundations inclusive training course and act that before we'll promote you. I think that has never happened, something along those lines for milestone maintainers, and also maybe expectations have shifted. But like the ability to be able to say, ooh, this is this bug fix needs to go in is a useful thing, and like I would expect SIG TLs to have the most context on that.
Now the
but
other one
again,
go.
Yeah, sorry. Again, speaking of KK, or at least of Kubernetes main repo, then SIG release is the one who has the final say it, who is like, should have idea of what is getting in. Like it shouldn't be like that SIG TLs can just go ahead and milestone it and get it merged. Because
That would be a
yeah,
change in charter. That is definitely not the charter today.
okay, yeah. Benefit.
That's a pretty big change. I think if you want to say that like we have hit the RC phase and it's not there, then like sure you can change the milestone rules or something. For example, cherry picks don't just work that way, but during code freeze, like that is how we've delegated that behavior for all releases I've ever participated in. And dropping that is a pretty big shift that needs much broader discussion.
Yeah, what I was going to say is the other thing that we could do is fix the issue that Marco linked in the chat. And that issue, what it did was that it fast forwarded the branch before finishing the release. And what happened with that one was that, if I remember correctly, was that the code that did the fast forwarding of the branch or rebasing, I don't remember how we implemented it, got the branches wrong. So instead of merging one into the other, it did it backwards, and that completely broke the publishing bot. And we could do that. And the reason why I think no one has really volunteered to do that is because if you screw it up, then you get to a chance to do the Git magic again and break, like basically make 3 days of misery for a bunch of people. So I don't know if it's worth it. I mean, I would be in favor of freezing the branch. So no merges, at least strategically, while we run release. But I'm open to whatever the community decides. Because we wouldn't have to freeze it for days, because it's usually once we get, so release is the strongest part of what we do. So it's usually quick and painless. I shouldn't say this because I'm jinxing the rest of the year, but we try to do like get everything wrong before we get to release. So it should be like, we're done, freeze it, run it, and then we're done. But I mean, we could discuss on proposals and then write something up and open it up to the wider community. Yeah,
maybe we can make a discussion item in the SIG release repo, send that out to KDev and K-release and solicit some feedback.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, cool. I will take an action to do that. All right, I think we are out of time now. If anybody has anything else that they'd like to discuss, feel free to start a thread in SIG Release or on the SIG Release mailing list, and we can take it from there. Hope everybody has a fantastic rest of their Tuesday, and see you on the internet.
Thanks all. Good
Bye-bye.
Bye.